everyone, guests and participants. Welcome to our meeting at Kazakh European Science Association. My name is Aya and I'm going to be facilitator for this event. And I'm going to introduce word to Galimjan to introduce our community, our values, what we're offering, and welcome to this event.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aya. So welcome everyone. So can you see my screen and hear me clearly? Can you see my screen? Yeah, good. So welcome. Today we have another amazing event from Kazakh European Science Association, mainly all scientists across Europe and not only. So let me briefly talk about our association. So actually, my name is Ramjan Isabekov. I'm clinician scientist here in Germany, working in Charité Hospital, Department of Neurology. And I also have previous training in medicine, did my medical residency program while I've been in China, in Beijing. And after that, stayed for 1 year at the University of Florida, following have been in Japan doing research fellowship. Personal life, I'm married, have 2 kids, and so during this time, when I stayed in these countries, I tried to gather Kazakh scientists or younger scientists to have this kind of community, because I often found that it's important to find your exactly community which have common interests. So during my stay in China, we had this China-Kazakhstan PhD Association. And after that, I moved to US, and in the US with other folks, Adia and other, maybe you know, they now already have separate association. So we had Kazakhstan PhD Association in US just started. And after moving to Japan, we made another with with Aya and other folks. With them help, we tried to have this kind of community of Kazakh scientists, PhD, master, or already established. So after moving to Germany, we thought it will be great to come to new level and create Kazakh European Science Association. So if you look for this chart over last 9 years, we have association journey. So it started in 2014 in Beijing, China, and till now we have a lot of speakers. Yeah, excuse me, a lot of speakers from different. It started from Beijing, and after that we also tried to invite. There was people from Peking University, Tashkent, and Alibek from Tsinghua University. At that time, they give the speech, shared this insight. And when I moved to US, I also take this opportunity to establish this kind of small community. We also invited several people like Mansour from Cornell, and also with the help of others like Adia, we together invited Asrat Abjanov from Imperial College of London as an established scientist. So we try to do this kind of activities, gather every month, online, mostly online. And after that, I moved to Japan, and Japan also made meet amazing people like Amina, Aya, today is our moderator, and also people from industry like Aijan, and here. So we organized over 20 online and offline meetings in these countries and people from that countries. So here you can see it's like last year in Japan, we had mainly monthly seminar series, people from academia. This is Amina, postdoctoral research fellow, which is doing cancer studies. And also we get another insight what will be beneficial for our members to have people from industry. And Aijan is from industry, data scientist. He got her PhD, and after PhD decided to go to industry. And other than that, we also, with the help of other organizers like Aya, we did this event, like try to expand our ability and invite people that established. And Dr. Serik Mirmanov is already established scientist, working after his PhD, postdoc, and now working as a professor at one of the Japanese universities, it's international university. So he also gives some recommendation, shared his insight, and we found this really useful. So from last year, we thought about this about this idea of creating more established Kazakh European Science Association. No a PhD anymore. Just joking. So main aim is here to bring scientists, educators, graduate students, and also people from industry to help each other to be beneficial, to create some kind of networking hub where we can discuss, find interesting opportunities. And so we're trying to be a melting pot of academia and industry expertise, which will be helpful to people who gather from two sides and discuss opportunities, maybe jobs, job position, or at least professional networking. So our mission is to have this kind of Kazakh, develop this kind of intellectual and cultural space of the Kazakh scientific community across Europe, and not only Europe. And main goal is to provide professional community and public on scientific and education discoveries. It's also mean helping to some organization in Kazakhstan to facilitate this kind of professional networking and public networking on scientific and educational fields. So our strategy is to initiate and coordinate collaborative research projects in science and education. And main aim is advanced professional qualification of KESA members. So people that want to join our community, share the ideas. So over from this year, we already made several events. So from January, Yerbolat from Netherlands shared his studies, what he's doing. He initially been in the US, did his PhD, and moved here for his postdoctoral research. And after that, we also initiated a panel discussion, but this panel discussion was slightly different. It's mainly talking about academical and industrial tenure from Asia Pacific countries, Japan, Hong Kong, Beijing, and New Zealand, Australia. And for this time, thank you for Didar and others to joining and doing this kind of panel discussion in educational field. So the name is Shaping the Future, Teacher Policy Governance in Kazakhstan Educational Sector. And upcoming events, we also trying to invite other individuals, like very, let's say, exceptional individuals, and Anara from working in Bavaria, Germany, in a pharmaceutical company, in an R&D department, research and development. And we thought it will be helpful for other PhD and our postdoc folks to get insight what is the work like in a research and development facility in a big pharma company. So guys, you're welcome to join next month, March 17, meeting with Anara. If you have other folks from pharmaceutical industry or research and development field, please share information, and we can also do panel discussion, gather people, like maximum 3 person, and we can do it in a small amount of time, very informative session. Other than that, we're also planning to invite Almas Sharmanov. He's very experienced American and Kazakhstani scientist, and also other interesting folks. For example, Sergey, he's also had PhD from MIT, but after PhD, he decided to move to industry, working as a Google brain and other fields. So it's very interesting to not only invite people from academia, but people that did their PhD and after finishing moved to industry. And if you know someone who's really interesting and will be beneficial to our audience, please welcome to share information about these people. And this panel discussion, every month we're trying to establish this kind of panel discussion on every field. So for this month, we invited people from education, and for next month, we want to invite other fields, industry, academia, maximum 3 people, try to, in a very short amount of time, do very informative session. So if you have any ideas, recommendation, please welcome. So other than that, our association also, last time when we had panel discussion, Muhit from Hong Kong, he recommended having this kind of map of knowing people, of especially Kazakh scientists, where they're working. And if you're traveling for some country, and you can easily find these people in our website. So this is like a worldwide map of Kazakh researchers. So on our website, we have every information from which country. For example, here from Germany, Berlin, only 3 people, and you know in what kind of fields they're working, their working email. So we try not to share personally email, but working email, so you can also easily connect with them and just say hi if you're passing. So it's another initiative. So for today, thank you very much for Didar, Aigerim, Dinara, Yerkesh for joining. We have amazing panel discussion ahead, and Aya also joining as a moderator from United States. Thank you very much for Aya for taking this time and moderating this session. So we will have our panel discussion will be about 100 minutes, maybe plus minus 10 minutes. So introduction, now we're doing introduction, panel presentation. Every presenter will present for 10, 15 minutes his work, what they're doing, what about their lab, what kind of research they're involving. And after that, we will have moderated panel discussion where you can have your questions and want to ask in person. If we have enough people, we will make it breakout rooms, and you can easily discuss your questions or topics which you want to ask in separate room. So, or if you other than that, if you have any questions, please write on the chat box. We will definitely choose them and ask our speakers. So also we will do conclusion and final ideas from speakers. So this is shortly about our association. Aya is currently in Japan, and now originally from Japan, but currently doing her research fellowship in US. So we have a very small team. So if you want to join, contribute, please welcome here at our website, a lot of information. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share about our association. So I'm passing to Aya. Yep.
Thank you, Aljan. Thank you for everyone who joining us in the chat and actively participating. So we're starting with the main session soon, and I would like to introduce our first speaker, which is Didar Zhakanbayev. Welcome, Didar. We're going to discuss first strategies for nurturing Kazakhstan's gifted students and the role of educational leadership. Welcome, Didar, and please, I transfer words to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. So my name is Didar. Currently, I'm a third-year PhD student at the University of Glasgow. My study is related to academically gifted students and the role of higher education in developing academically gifted students in Kazakhstan. And in this presentation, I will primarily focus on the literature review that I've made so far. Unfortunately, I haven't started my data collection process yet, so therefore I can't be able to share some data that I acquired. So today we will be limited with the literature review overall. So I hope it will be interesting. So basically, I would like to start first with discussing the term of giftedness. And to be honest, there is no universal definition, agreed definition for giftedness, and everybody understands it and perceives it differently. And some say that it's all about having a high IQ, and the others say it's like related to having special or extraordinary skill in sports or arts or other type of skills, for example. And if we have a look in the history of the term of giftedness, we will come up to the idea of two different types of giftedness. One is which is unidimensional, which is basically related to IQ tests, and back in 1900s, the beginning of 1900s, there were two researchers namely Bina and Simon. So they created a type of test which initially was to help mentally retarded children. Okay, but through some time, other researchers like Thurman and then Wessler, they modified this test and then made some improvements in it, and then this was the initial stage of how IQ tests started to develop. Lately, back in like 1960s, there started a certain type of shift from unidimensional concept to multidimensional, where it's mainly about having different traits among the people. And right now, I'm going to talk about only one theory because of the constraint of time. So basically, I would like to introduce you the term introduced by Renzulli. It is called schoolhouse giftedness and creative productive giftedness. And the main difference between them is that the schoolhouse giftedness is basically what is taught at school. What we usually see, the school students having high grades and and attending the school and following the rules and getting high marks in the tests. So basically, this is the type of giftedness which is described in the schoolhouse giftedness. On the other hand, the creative productive giftedness is related to the production of new things, and it's not just about identified by IQ tests. And the main idea behind this type of giftedness is that it is the product of three different traits that you can see on the screen right now. So three of these traits, basically the above average ability, though not superior, let's say, then the task commitment and also the creativity, and all of these three traits working in harmony, and the product of this work will be described as giftedness by Renzulli. Uh, shall we continue to the next slide? So all of these three rings should be working equally, and they all should be working in balance. Now coming more closer to my study, I would like to introduce the context of the study. So initially, as we know, in Kazakhstan right now, there are over 7,500 schools functioning. And according to statistics, back in 2021, we have 3.5 million students studying at schools. And compared to these numbers, when we have, we also have gifted schools, namely as Bilim Innovation Lyceums, Nazarbayev Intellectual Schools, Darın schools, Fizmat schools, and many others. Again, in my study, I decided to focus on the two Bilim Innovation Lyceum and Nazarbayev Intellectual Schools network, and my participants will be mainly graduates of these schools who are already pursuing their undergraduate degrees at the university level. So again, some more details about the higher education in Kazakhstan. As you can see, there are over 110 higher education institutions. But again, to identify the university which will give me potentially higher reliability of my data, I went to some more data. So here on the screen, you can see two different charts where the school graduates of BIL system and NIS system go to higher education. So interestingly, this is the top 10 university list of the school graduates, but again, 7 out of 10 universities, they are mutual in both charts. That was very interesting for me. And my institution, what I'm going to take the data collection is in both of these lists, but I cannot disclose this at this moment due to the nature of the study. So let's continue. So the existing problem right now that we have is that the gifted schools, they are well invested by the government, and they intend to nurture the future elite, or let's say the future leaders of our country. And also they create conducive learning environment for their students, mainly by it could also be like creating renovated learning hubs or special labs and etc. But the problem is when these let's say gifted students who graduate from school come to the university, are they do they have the same or at least similar intention or similar support from the higher education? So this was my concern and my problem, and therefore I decided to dive into this to find out more about this problem. So currently there is no university in Kazakhstan which delivers honors programs, and also the similar approach in the secondary education for gifted schools is not shared by higher education institutions. And we don't know much about the experience of these students, how they are going through the higher education journey, let's say. So my main purpose is to identify these gaps. So here are the objectives that I'll be focusing on. So I'll be mainly focusing on 3 aspects of higher education. Basically, it's going to be the pedagogy, how these gifted students are taught at the university, whether different types of teaching methods for explicitly designed for gifted students is offered by the university or not. And then also we'll be focusing on the well-being of their of the academically gifted students, what specific support is given. Of course, there could be a result that no specific support is given, but again, we will find it out after the data collection. And also the third objective that I will have is how they are how higher education institutions are developing the leadership skills of these gifted students. Because as I mentioned before, these special schools, especially the Nazarbayev intellectual schools, they tend to nurture the future leaders of our country. That's how they highlight it in their documents and policies. So that's what I'm going to research. So telling more about teaching gifted students, the practice of teaching children who have identified as gifted, it involves a range of unique practices, approaches, and theories. And all of these together combined is called as gifted education. Gifted education may require a use of different methods such as enrichment, which allows students to cover extended material on standard curriculum. And also there is another methodology which is called as acceleration, which helps students to advance in standard curriculum quicker than their peers. And the last one is the materials modification, which enables to modify materials according to the gifted students' needs. The research says that most essential component of high quality gifted program is recruitment of suitable training for teachers, like having specific teachers trained to teach gifted students is very essential. It's alternatively, it's also compared with outstanding musicians, for example, or athletes or actors. All of these people, they all have their coaches, for example. And to some extent, these coaches may not be as good as these performers. But again, they play very important role in training these gifted people. So similarly, teaching gifted students requires some additional pedagogical skills, if that's okay to say so. Also another research by Al-Hayat and et al. Revealed in their study that creative and critical thinking strategy are preferred by academically gifted students while attending university classes. Similarly, when academically gifted students receive specialized instruction and support during higher education, they are more likely to pursue higher degrees in STEM, for example, STEM fields, which is like science, technology, engineering, math. And also the findings indicate that employing special pedagogy for academically gifted students in higher education is crucial for their academic and personal growth, making it important consideration for higher education institutions. At this point, I also remembered a research made by the scientists at Nazarbayev University with the students with the students who study in Nazarbayev University, which also found that the gifted students they struggled to come to a competitive environment, and they couldn't find a proper support from the university administration or from the higher education in general. And that also gives an additional justification to do more research in this direction. The next aspect, sorry, are we okay with the time? I just didn't have a look. Okay, all right, so we can continue. So focusing on the leadership development of academically gifted students in higher education, this is the second point that I'm going to focus on. So the research also says that students, the high school students who attended university programs for gifted education, they tend to show a higher leadership potential compared to their other peers. Also, another research made by Kazakhstani scientists suggests that a leadership development program implemented in the university, it led to a significant improvement in leadership qualities and reduction of negative emotions in students. Lastly, what I can say is that Dugan and Convis, they suggested that socio-cultural conversations with peers, faculty mentoring, and participation in community service were main influences on students' capacities for socially responsible leadership. So basically, if we have a look at these literature, it can be seen that leadership can be developed within the context of higher education by either co-curricular programs or extracurricular programs and other support services possible. So it is important to acknowledge that being academically gifted does not automatically ensure success as a leader. There are some other factors such as emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills, which play a significant role in effectively leading others. And also, additionally, the effect of higher education in development of future leaders is largely unknown in Kazakhstan, as I mentioned before. So therefore, there is a need to examine how academically gifted students' leadership skills are promoted within the university. So The next and the last focus of my research will be on the well-being of these students in higher education. Studies suggest that universities can support the mental health and well-being of academically gifted students in various ways. One of them is widely practiced in Kazakhstan. Probably most of us who studied back in Kazakhstan know that we were assigned special advisors, also known as curators, and they could support not only from the academical perspective, but also from other special needs, for example. But again, that role is assigned for all students, not only the academically gifted students. So here is an important part which also needs to be clarified by the university administration in the responsibilities of faculty, teaching staff, and also these assigned curators, for example. How can these people help to special needs of academically gifted students? Also, students themselves have diverse recommendations for improving their well-being, including better academic teaching practices or student services and support, and also a course design. So these are all suggested by students to improve, and that would probably influence their general well-being at the higher education institutions. Higher degree research students specifically may benefit from a whole university approach to supporting their well-being, including culture and community, support services, supervisors and supervision practices, and peer engagement and networking. So which is today, I'm not stating that we are all gifted students, but we are all mature and we are sort of trying to do our best in our field. But again, such engagements, they always positively influence our development. As a conclusion, from the literature provided, we can conclude that this is an important topic with a huge potential to identify strong support mechanisms for academically gifted students, and also enhance the areas for further improvement within the higher education. Additionally, including the faculty members and senior management and participants will enable to comprehensively investigate on the experience of academically gifted students. Of course, I did not mention that, but in my participants group, there will be students, also the faculty, teaching staff, and also lastly, the senior management administration staff. So this should help to look at the problem from different perspectives with different angles. So students could tell us what was their experience, what were their expectations. Teachers could also tell us how they prepare for the class, for their courses, whether they are taking into account that there are some students who require special assistance. And again, special assistance should not be limited with, let's say, how it's usually perceived as inclusive education. Like gifted students, they are also needs to be categorized as special needs students, and therefore their needs should also be provided by the university. And lastly, the university administration's perspective should help to see at the problem from the policy perspective, from the university's internal policy perspective. And finally, this study could contribute to the existing knowledge on gifted education in higher education. So basically, this is it, what I have prepared for you today. And thank you for your attention. I hope it was helpful.
Thank you, Didar, so much for your talk. And while our next speaker is preparing slides, I would like to address one question and ask Didar, how do we define these schools as gifted or schools for gifted children? What do you think?
Can you repeat the question, please?
How do we define, how do we claim special schools are specifically for gifted children? How do we define the schools? Do we assess them in certain way?
That's an interesting question. So when I was doing the research, it was interesting to go through the policy about these specific schools, whether it be BIL or NIS. And also, it was interesting to have a look at the selection process of these schools. And none of them had a scientific evidence based on international standards or based on some other scientific evidence. And this was very interesting, like to based on what they are creating this selection process. And till now, it's still an open question. Like the questions, the types of questions, there is no specific guidance on how and why these specific questions were selected to identify the gifted students. And there is also a concern like this. For example, one student could be identified gifted in Nazarbayev Intellectual Schools examination, but the same student may not be identified as gifted for Bölüm Innovation Lyceum examinations. And also, there were some differences in the examination type as well. For example, in Darın schools, which is also designed for gifted students, they only have one I don't know the English equivalent of etap. Okay, so it's a stage or level. I don't know. So Darın schools, they had only one stage examination. So if you pass that, okay, you can study. But for Bölüm Innovation, they have two stages. So you pass the first, then you have to go through the second. And again, this is all legal. That is written in our educational policies. That is legal. And from these kind of things, let me think about to what extent all of these tests are legit, and do they have to be controlled by one or another system, whether it be the education ministry or other like the regional ablono, as we say. Do they have to be controlled by them? So these are all open questions which needs to be further developed. I don't know if I could answer your question, but
that was a very nice, extensive answer, and I hope we can discuss this topic more in the discussion panel or in the breakout rooms. So I would ask participants to keep writing questions in the chat or save them for the breakout room discussions. And we are moving on to the next speaker. Please welcome Dinara and Yerkesh to talk about exploring the Kazakhstan's trilingual policy in education and civil service training.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so let me start first. Me and Yerkesh and I, we are actually exploring trilingual policy, but from two different perspectives, I could say. So in my case, let me first introduce myself. So my name is Dinara Shaimakhanova. I'm a PhD candidate in education at University of Bristol in United Kingdom. And at the moment, I'm in my last year of my education, so it's my writing up. My research is almost finished, just writing is left. My general experience is actually my research, why I was driven to do research about trilingual policy. That's related to my own background as a, my professional and my academic background. In general, I'm a teacher of foreign languages. I teach English as a foreign language, as a second language. I teach French as a foreign language, as a second language. And I also had experience in instructing students for research skills, for academic writing skills. That is about English language as well. And also I worked as a researcher in the educational field. So my experience relates to secondary schools in Kazakhstan, in Georgia, in United Kingdom, where I had experience as a teacher and a teacher assistant. Also, I used to work at universities, and I'm still working at some universities at the moment, online and offline. So in general, the topic of trilingual language policy came to me since I did my bachelor's, my first, undergraduate degree at Eurasian Humanities Institute in Astana. I did education in foreign languages department. And that made me to think about foreign language as one of the field to research. And after that, I completed my master's programs, and also I did some certifications about second language teaching, especially related to English. And also I did some specialization in inclusive education, but that was also related to second language teaching, because everything I did that was related to how to teach language in terms of all this different expertise that I had gained during my professional and academic background. 2 years ago, I did some graduate courses at University of Hamburg. That was also related to multilingualism, multiculturalism, and linguistic diversity issues. And now, if I move on with my, how I move on? Sorry. So if I talk about, maybe let me put this one here. If I talk about my current research, that's related to trilingual language policy in education, and especially that's about secondary schools in Kazakhstan. And that's secondary schools, urban and rural schools. You know that trilingual language policy was first launched in some specially organized schools like NIS, already mentioned by Didar in his presentation, right? And also some schools like Darun and some pilot schools where multilingual education, and also this Belim Innovatsiya, let's say, right? They were all about multilingual education, while in ordinary, in mainstream schooling system in Kazakhstan, it was still just education in one language, which is might be first language as Kazakh one, the language of instruction, or the first language of instruction as Russian. But later in 2016, all around the country, around Kazakhstan, the whole mainstream schooling system became to start the new direction where trilingual language policy will be one of the main systematic change in the whole educational mainstream schooling system in Kazakhstan. And that was realized by adapting the new curriculum that is called updated curriculum. Maybe if there are people in this audience from educational spheres, I know this term обновленка, обновленное образование. So that is updated curriculum that was actually taken from Nazarbayev intellectual schools and was adapted and also was put in all mainstream schooling system. And by 2022, this updated curriculum was launched everywhere around all schools around Kazakhstan, even in those remote rural places. And that is really true because 4 years ago, when I was still in Kazakhstan before doing my PhD, I was working in the rural school. It's a very small rural school in a very remote place in Kazakhstan. And there we used to have this trilingual policy. But of course, you know, when you say trilingual policy and you talk about or let's say any rural or any urban school in Kazakhstan, we talk about different things, and that's why I was driven about the idea how actually this trilingual language policy is being implemented, how it's been conceptualized, how it's been operationalized around the country. And I took the multiple qualitative case study where I took multiple cases of urban schools in Kazakhstan, in some cities, and multiple cases of rural schools in Kazakhstan. And the thing that I look is EFL teachers. I mean, my target participants, EFL, English as a foreign language, because while Kazakh language and Russian language are already being bilingually, in a bilingual mode, being implemented in our schools, English is something new. I mean, not English as a language, a language subject, but English where it should be used. For example, let's say in the high school, there is an idea that English is being used and will be used in like some science subjects, like, I don't know, math or physics, in mainstream schooling system, right? And my thing is to analyze the policy. I'm not actually doing this ethnographic research or anything like that. I'm analyzing the trilingual language policy in Kazakhstan through the critical realist perspective, where I look at this things like concepts like ideology, power, and agency that belong to teachers, because you know that in Kazakhstani system, usually the policy is top-down way, when it is okay, I could say that is just policy dumping, like it's just given to teachers, given to schools, and you have to follow it. However, if you go to the classrooms, you might see the case of bottom-up power, where whether this policy might be taken fully and being operationalized as it was given by policymakers, or might be there is policy resistance, or might be there is just ignoring the policy at all. So, or might be there is just a lack of awareness that policy is there, and we all of us following the policy, and teachers just continue their usual state of teaching, and not regarding any new innovations, any new changes and policy changes in the education. So that is my research about. And last year, when I was in my third year, I went back to Kazakhstan, and I did around maybe 6 months, like 3 months offline, 3 months online research related to teachers and their understanding, their operationalizing, their as well their conceptualizing of the policy matters, language policy in education. And I found out some interesting ideas. Okay, maybe today I'll share some of them with you, but yet I am still analyzing my data. And just if we go a little bit to, let me move on. So in here, I would like to show you the scene. Why? What is the rationale for my research actually? You know that bilingualism and trilingualism and multilingualism as a whole is not a new trend actually, but it is something that is now very popularized, very popular around the whole country system, because we are, around the whole world system, because the world is becoming globalized, and there is even no difference of languages or anything else. And that's why in the modern society, a lot of educational policies, they tend to have this scene of the educational policies with languages, like with language use, multilingualism, for example. And if we look at the policy from economical, social, or political sides, if we do this small little analysis, we know that knowing different languages and trying to implement them within the country can lead to different economical change as well as social and political change. And in Kazakhstani case, English became a very strategic language for our international relations. It became very strategic for globalization. And even now we have this conference in English. So it might be due to this trilingual policy, who knows? Yeah, and of course, we should not forget when we talk about English, we should not forget about this, that we have our state language, that is Kazakh language, and the status of state language is very high in our country. And also we have a Russian language, the inter-ethnic language, that is with us due to our historical background, and also due to like our geographical conditions, you know. And so when we talk about any policy system, any policy in education, not only language policy, but in general policy in education, you know that the last person in whose hands the policy will be given to, and who will actually realize this policy and implement it or not, are teachers. So the teacher's role is very vital, because teachers are actually those people who build the nation. Teachers are those people through whose ideologies the whole nation might be, you know, directed in one way or another. And you know that the ideology is quite effective and quite important scene in nation building as well. And that is why, we could even say that teachers shape the world in their small classrooms using their bottom-up power. So that is the thing that I'm researching, the ideologies, how they are, like how these ideologies actually affect the power that has been exercised through teachers' agency. I mean, in here, through teaching itself. And at this moment, maybe I'm not able to share a lot of my too much of around my data analysis stuff. I mean, my data, but I could say that we have different kind of ideologies within our country. If we talk about urban cases and rural cases, I mean, rural teachers, and also urban teachers, urban school teachers. But at the same time, the the whole nation ideology related to building the nation, to building our Kazakhstani nation, is being operationalized around the whole country. And teachers are those anchors who are actually doing this policy. If I move on, there were some suggestions to talk about our general experience about PhD. I have one more slide. I don't know to what extent it is related. It's not about my research, but just for people, if there are any people who decide to do PhD, or who are like maybe for now thinking about PhD or doing PhD, I just want to add one more thing. Now I'm already on my 4th year of PhD, and it doesn't mean that the whole 4 years I'm only researching my topic and doing nothing else. So this is a little bit out of my research topic, but let's have a look. So that's a little bit of PhD life in a nutshell, about my own PhD life. So PhD life is very challenging, to be honest, because it takes your maybe for those who are doing PhD in US 5 years of your life, right? But it's quite rewarding. And in University of Bristol, our PhD usually 4 years, and the first year is you do courses, like it's like kind of small master's program, I could say, and then the rest 3 years you do your research, which is data collection, data analysis, a lot of things. Actually, in my PhD, I had really like ups and downs, and you can see the picture on the background. It's a roller coaster. This is my life right now. Sometimes I go very high. Sometimes I just fall down very, 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 very deep down. Also, PhD is it's not only about sitting in your room or in your office and doing your research. It's a lot of opportunities, conferences. For example, right now we have a very interesting opportunity to have this online panel discussion conference with researchers all around the world. It's also about networking, about sharing experience. It's about graduate PhD programs. I had several opportunities during my PhD to do summer and winter schools, PhD winter schools and summer schools around the world. It's also about different opportunities that university might offer you, and also not only university, but more like outside the university, you can find opportunities for any extracurricular activities, any volunteering activities. Also, it's a good time to do your part-time job to enhance your skills. For example, I did while doing my PhD, I was working as a research assistant at University of Bristol. I was working as a lecturer at some Kazakhstani universities online. I was working as exam invigilator and holiday scheme leader at University of Warwick. And also I was working as a teacher assistant at some companies that provide homeschool education here in UK. And also that's an opportunity to travel around the world, just for your own purpose, for traveling itself, or for some business purpose like conferences. And you know, it's really good that when you can find your Kazakh society in the country where you live, and Kazakh society in UK is quite big. It's very big society actually. And also it's about sports and hobbies. You should not forget about that you are also living your life. And in my case, I love hiking, and I did hiking around the whole UK, like different mountains, hills, a lot of different places. So we almost did hiking all around UK. I mean, England, Scotland, everywhere. So I think that people today not only take the information about our research, but also maybe will be a bit, how to say this, will be interested if you really want to do PhD in your future or not, or if you are doing your PhD at this moment, that you are not alone. We are all going through the roller coaster ups and downs, but it will be rewarding one day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dinara. It's an amazing talk, and thank you for sharing your experience as a PhD student, all this experience that you had in and out of PhD program. I want to give time for our next speaker, Yerkesh, to prepare slides. Meanwhile, I'm gonna introduce our next speaker. Next speaker is Yerkesh Rakhymzhanov. He is a postgraduate researcher in learning, leadership, and policy at the University of Bristol, UK. His research is focused on language policy in training Kazakhstani civil servants. He graduated from University of Nottingham in 2016, and his work is mainly related to teaching English as a foreign language and conducting training and professional development courses for civil servants. Welcome for our next speaker.
Hello everyone, can you hear me? Nice, all right. Can you see the slides? Yeah. All right. Yeah, just before we start, there was a good question. So even now we are having this event in English. So my question just before the start was, what was the motivation to have this kind of events in English? Why is not, for example, in Kazakh? So that will be my question to you organizers. And yeah, because I'm looking here at the participants list and we are all Kazakh fellows. So why?
Yeah, I think, can I say, like, I think because it's all a very important question to ask this, like, you can say it in your own language, but why are you speaking English? And especially we can understand in our language. But I think in terms of our research studies that we're doing, we're mainly like used to use English language, and it's also helpful for our audience, some of the audience, to try to learn more academical English. And I think this is one of the reasons, but main reason is for having this kind of international, let's say, networking, and not only invite Kazakh people, but in the future as a vision of Central Asian. So for Central Asian, I think it will be English will be much better than Russian. Yeah, this is the whole idea.
Mm-hmm. I see. Very interesting. All right. So let's crack on. So just here. So hello everyone joining this panel discussion. Since we are in the UK, for those football lovers, a Carabao Cup final between Chelsea and Liverpool. Yeah, it's the break now. Second half is kicking on. So yeah. My name is Yerkesh Rakhymzhanov. I'm doing AD third year. AD is quite and not quite different from the PhDs that people do. So, but today it's not about the program. So my topic is language policy in training Kazakhstani civil servants. Yeah, my background is Academy of Public Administration. I worked there before I made a decision to start my doctoral degree, and it was focused on developing and delivering retraining and professional development courses with different modules. So basically, we were teaching, giving lectures for civil servants from different backgrounds, different ages. So as you can see, mainly focusing on adult education. This is the photo from the workshop seminar when we were building a teaching program for Latin graphics. If you know this, there was a planned shift from Cyrillic alphabet to Latin. Yeah, so I was giving lectures in mainly providing soft skills, communication skills, public speaking, time management, and all sorts of the management, cooperation, introduction to Latin graphics, and I was running pre-sessional courses for several years in order to apply for the Academy of Public Administration, which runs postgraduate degrees for civil servants again. So I always ask why. So why do you do this research? What's your motivation? So why is this research topic? Once during my lesson, after like roughly 15 minutes, I got a question like, at what point are you going to speak Kazakh? Yeah, so she said, Yerkesh, siz Қазақша қашан сөйлеуді бастайсыз dedi ғой маған. And we call them listeners because technically they are not students. They come, they listen, and then they go. Yeah. And that did strike me, you know, assuming everyone understands Russian. And that was the language of instruction of the whole course, of course. However, apparently I had more than few people who simply could not speak Russian at all. So obviously I switched to bilingual so that include them in the program, you know, and however, it already cut my lesson in terms of the time because I was translating and explaining bits and pieces in both languages. But afterwards, like I thought, like, wow, like how is it possible that a person did not comprehend in the language of the course he is attending? Although it might seem a very reasonable and fair question, isn't it? So later, at one of the workshops, when we gathered with our colleagues from the whole country, I was speaking to my colleagues and from different regions, and I got another comment. So one of the heads of the regional branches, she said, like, well, my lecturer got a complaint letter with comments that she spoke Russian on the lesson. However, she said she used only few words. Can you imagine being reported for just using few words in Russian? And again, I thought, wow, this sounds really different to me now, assuming that there is a different reality happening elsewhere. So I started wondering, so why is that so? What are the reasons behind these such realities, you know? And how is it possible for a person to come for a lesson without knowing a certain language? And we are talking about adults, you know, mostly civil servants with years of experience. So what's the current language policy and how is it matched on the grounds between different stakeholders? I mean, the teaching staff, the managers, the directors, the board, the listeners or the students themselves as well. And in doing so, I'm going to use these methods. So those are interviews, observations, some field work, documentary analysis, and case studies, all right? But these are one of the just basic methods that most people use in qualitative studies. However, here, my main aim is to look for underlying mechanisms that have brought to what we have nowadays. Look for causal powers that have influenced or shaped or still shaping the reality that we have today. So, and again, I should mention that I am at the beginning of my research, although I'm a year 3. That's another difference between ED and PhD, I guess. So I still need to do data collection. However, I'm keen on discussion on some preliminary points of the research, all right? Here, I have taken the state program for the language policy in Kazakhstan using Hornberger's framework. So here are some points from the language policy. On the right, you can see the framework. Basically, that framework she has created, let's say, she basically collected many different frameworks and then created her own framework. What we can see from the current policy is the money being allocated for the development of the language policy systematically and considerably rising over time. And I must state here that the whole document is based on the development of the state language. So you see the discourse has shifted. So according to Dinara, for example, it was and is still, we have that trilingual policy. But the policy itself is shifted and it doesn't strengthen or highlight those improvements in Russian or English language, for example. So it has only minor references to the development of other languages like Russian and English. Then the government plans a full-scale development in all spheres, basically. So from the alphabet to renaming the inhabitants that we used to see on, I don't know, Tengri News, whatever the news channel, social media, those debates that are happening now. Here, I would like to draw your attention on the administrative management as well. So here, the proportion of employees in state service providing organizations, that 0.5, national companies, national holdings, and they have to have a minimum compulsory compulsory B1 level proficiency in the Kazakh language as determined by the CAS test. All right. And to add this, in administrative management, for example, the percentage of the outgoing documents, so the documents that are circulated in the civil service in the state language constituted up to 93% of them. 93%. Can you imagine? And that was in 2018. So I assume now it's 150% then. But the quality and quantity of the applications written in Kazakh still remain low, and some sociological research shows official language in the state is still predominantly Russian, with only 7.9% respondents in that research showed they were using Kazakh language in administrative and governmental bodies. So less than 10% used Kazakh. Thus, I would call it in brackets as a shame, yeah. So it should be stated again here that CAS test is a compulsory for civil servants with a minimum level of B1 and of B2 for senior positions, all right? So here, this is the example of CAS test. Probably many of you have done it. I was just going to show you some pinpoints, some of the main points here. So here, no, just if we go back to that question that I was asked at the beginning about Kazakh, it sounds more reasonable now, isn't it? Like assuming that all civil servants have to be able to speak Kazakh because they are all tested and they have compulsory examination. So, and why then our courses are not in Kazakh then? Why I'm running them in English? So this is the CAS test example. This is the translation, my translation. On the right, the result is a bit old since it's from 2021. I believe they have made changes now, they say. However, they have not stated that on their website. Again, 2 key moments to pay attention here, key aspects that are not tested here, which are speaking and writing. Can you imagine that? This test does not have speaking and writing sections. Writing here, it is there, but basically it is retelling and not expressing your own ideas. So you don't write an essay, you basically write what you heard. Okay, I mean, even so, but how about that? Should people with educational background in Kazakh language of instruction do these tests at all? Do they have to do it? Why they should do it, considering they have a degree in Kazakh language? Isn't that strange already? So why everyone gets tested, you know? So I'm picking up some cases in order to fulfill this research. And I'm focusing on one region only, because, yeah, we have some restrictions in terms of I simply can't do all the research, maybe as a postdoc or whatever the project will be afterwards. Yeah, why not? So here I'm planning to take Academy of Public Administration as the main institution that provides postgraduate degrees and the development courses, and then zoom in to one region. Okay, so that will be one of these 4, and see how is it on the ground, you know, to see and go to the deeper in one region to see how the policy overlaps or mismatched on the ground, to uncover the challenges by the staff, by the students, by the managers, by the civil servants, and the organizations as well. Well, for example, why I'm taking this, in some regions, retraining and professional development courses, listen, up to 90% of them are held in Russian language. Still in Russian language. So why is that so? If we assume, again, everyone can and should and have to be able to speak Kazakh. And when we come to the teaching process, how is that effective, you know? To what extent should, or they should, gain the knowledge? And even to theorize more about it, why then we don't have Russian proficiency exam then, if our courses up to 90% are held in Russian? Similar to what we do with English, for example, you won't be able to study a doctoral degree without knowing English if the language of instruction is English, isn't it? So according to the rector of the academy, all PGR students provided by the academy, PGR degrees provided by the academy, are held in 3 languages. Here we go back to the trilingual policy. However, they are not tested in the proficiency of Russian. They are not tested in the proficiency of English. They got rid of that, I think, 2 years ago. It was, but still, there was such a low bar in order to, you know, get the admission. So, to what extent those degrees then are effective? Are the students then proficient in all 3 languages? And what about the teaching stuff? And how it is aligned with the language policy again in the country. Just another example so if all the courses indeed they are held in 3 languages, I've taken the documents, see the language distribution throughout the courses, there are indeed in 3 languages. However, this is the example from the Academy website. All the information that I'm presenting now is available online, open source, so I'm not sharing or breaking the ethics. So you can see this one, yeah? This is the Academy website, дистанционные образовательные технологии. So these are the list of courses that you can, or any person in the country can apply for, learn online. So as you can see, none of them are in English. Only 2 of them, 3 of them, are in Kazakh. and I think around 90% of them are still in Russian. So basically here you can see подготовка к Kazakh resmi test. That's an alternative test that the academy itself has created and disseminating over the country as an alternative for Kaz test. All right. But the main difference is Kaz test is compulsory. Kazakh resmi test is voluntarily. And it is a bit harder. And here comes the easiest question, why you would go for a more difficult exam when there is less difficult exam, you know? Then there is another one, yeah, time management and личная эффективность на госязыке. Навыки официального письма на госязыке, that makes us free. And there is another one, so yeah, I think 4 or 5, it doesn't matter, out of 20 something courses are only in Kazakh. And 2 of them are about Kazakh language. So it's not about separate something, a different module of learning something in Kazakh. It is about Kazakh language. So I don't think if you can consider it as a separate module delivered in Kazakh. So I hope this is just a bit of example that to share or to show the rationale, to show my motivations of why I'm doing this research. So I hope my research will help to uncover, you know, all the rationale and challenges faced by multiple stakeholders in this process of delivering education. So how can we be effective? How do we utilize what we have? Or what should we do? Yeah, what are the challenges? And how do we face them? And make sure that it is aligned with the language policy, or maybe we don't need it. Maybe we don't need it. Maybe we have to have like a similar differentiated approach, which will go back to the gifted students, for example. Yeah, if you have gifted students in one classroom, so how would you approach to them? So you wouldn't give the same thing or the same tasks or questions for the whole. So how do you navigate? How do you approach those discrepancies between the policy, let's say, and practice? So that's it for me. Yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, please. Okay, how do I stop it?
Thank you so much, Yerkesh, for this engaging talk. And while Aigerim is preparing for her presentation, I would like to introduce our next speaker. Welcome to Aigerim Otepbergen. She's a postgraduate researcher, and she holds a master's degree from Cardiff University, where her dissertation addressed real-world challenges in online grocery delivery. Aigerim was honored with the prestigious Sir Julian Hodge Prize, awarded to the second-best student of Cardiff Business School. She has also contributed to research efforts as a research assistant at Cardiff University before continuing her academic journey at Kazakh National University. Today, Aigerim is going to share us insights into performance measurement in universities and its effects on staff well-being. Welcome to Aigerim.
Thank you so much. This is a big responsibility to present my work as a last speaker. Hopefully you are not too overwhelmed today. And today I will be talking about the topic that is related to all of us, as all of us we can consider ourselves as academic workers, although we are not like full academic workers, but anyway, we are very engaged in academic work. And my topic is about performance measurement and management at universities and how it affects, what kind of consequences it has for academic workers. And I will study this problem on the case of Kazakhstani universities. A little bit about my background. As Aya mentioned, I studied at Cardiff Business School, where I made my dissertation with the online grocery delivery company Ocado in the modern, fully automated warehouse, where I researched the performance of the workers of the warehouse and what kind of things affect their performance. And later I worked as a research assistant at Cardiff University. Then I joined Kazakh National University. I worked as a teaching fellow there. And I wanted to continue my research journey, my academic career, and as I was interested on performance of employees, as I shifted to academia, as I started to work as an academic, I noticed that performance of academic workers at Kazakh National University is good, actually is good. However, there are so many underlying things that I didn't like, to be honest, when I worked there. For example, and it was one of the rationale why I started to research, to study, to became interested in these topics, like, you know, the endless WhatsApp conversations, endless tasks, and then lots of things that I shouldn't do as an academic at university, lots of social work that I was required to do, although it was not paid. And lots of these kind of things made me think about what is the best performance management and measurement at the university, and how does it make academics feel about themselves, and how it affects their performance. And then I applied to Glasgow University, where I had a chance to study this topic in more depth. So here I will talk about, so today's presentations is just a brief presentation about my topic, and the presentations of the previous speakers, they so much shaped my speech that I was going to deliver today. So first of all, I just wanted to explain in simple words what performance measurement and management is. So performance measurement is a continuous circular process of measuring the performance of analyzing the data, on choosing, on benchmarking, and then on goal setting and strategic alignment of the data, and then giving feedback according to data, and at last suggesting some performance improvement initiatives, and then again measuring, and again analyzing, and again goal setting. And this is circular continuous process. What about performance management? Performance management are the activities that are focused on employees to improve their performance in accordance to the strategic goals of the organization. So here, if we take the example of the universities, what are the performance measurement at universities? Nowadays, the main performance measurement, and maybe you all come across that the first question that any academic asks about, do you have any publication? In which journals do you have the publication? And the number of publication and the ranking of the journal which you're publishing became one of the main indicators of your academic performance. And this is one of the examples of performance measurement at the universities. Of course, there are other examples from teaching surveys, activities of the academic workers. And what is performance management? In my case, there are lots of definitions of performance management, but in my thesis, I will be using the definition, which is the behavioral and social routines that are used at the organization toward the employees. And it's related to the corporate culture, if you want. And here is the chart. It's kind of a framework that I am using as a lens to look at my data. they consider performance measurement system as a science and performance management as an art, as a social control and technical control, that in every organization there is a mix of technical and social control. Technical control means the number of KPIs, how these KPIs related to the strategic objectives of the organizations, how this process is systematic or not, and it can be divided to, it can change from low maturity to high maturity, and performance management can change from command and control style to democratic and participative style. And according to this combination of this technical and social control, the organizations can be Weberian organization if they have low maturity performance measurement system and command and control style of performance management. Neoliberal economic organization, which mostly all the universities worldwide, they can be considered as neoliberal economic organizations because they have like strict control management and lots of KPIs and very, very strict measurement system. And the best organization, according to this framework, is humanistic organization, where you, in the organization, you have democratic and participative management and high maturity performance measurement system. However, it is in theory. So if we move to the next slide, I want to now talk about the consequences of performance measurement and management system. In the literature, the consequences of performance management is well studied, but consequences of performance measurement system is only emerging topic, especially in academia, because the logic of academic organizations themselves has been changing these days. They're changing from collegial style to more business style. The academic institutions, they started to prioritize KPIs, prioritize the business logic in their management. So therefore, the research nowadays is focused on how this change of logic of academic institution from academic to business logic affects academic workers. There is dysfunctional consequence as a dysfunctional behavior of academic workers. It's called gaming. What is gaming? It can be artificial co-authorship, for example, when you want to publish, when you have a KPI to publish, but you can't for some reasons, you go for artificial co-authorship. You slice your publication into several parts. You take risk-averse or short-term research. You manipulate the data deliberately, and this is the case worldwide. It's not the only the patterns that we witness only in Central Asia, for example, from our experience. These things are happening worldwide. And also the next consequence of performance measurement and management system is well-being of academic workers. As Didar mentioned, that, for example, for gifted students, the teachers need to have a special approach, special way of treating them, for example, or giving them some extra work. This is an extra workload for academic workers. For example, when I looked at Didar's work from the perspective of my work, when the focus of my research is academic worker, I look at everything from the perspective of academics. So how it affects academic workers' well-being, how it affects their workload. And as Dinara mentioned, the teachers they have a vital role in promoting the education of the country, of the world. And that's why well-being of academic workers is very important. And well-being can be divided into psychological, physical, and social. Psychological well-being can be hedonic, which is the job satisfaction by employee, and eudaimonic, which is a satisfaction with opportunities and purpose of the work. It's more about the perspectives of the work. Physical well-being includes stress and burnout. This can be related to feeling anxious, feeling stressful about your work, having troubles with sleep, not willing to work anymore. This kind of things can be considered as physical well-being. And social well-being is related to the relationship with peers and with managers, how these relationships affect the well-being of employees. So these are the things which I'm studying about academics. So as you noticed, I'm studying the management of the universities, and I'm studying the perception of the management by the academics and their behavior and well-being as an response to this performance management and measurement system at the universities. So here, how I'm going to study this issue, this question. I'm facilitating like qualitative research as a case study with interviews and document analysis. In my research, there are 4 universities with different ownership styles. Statuses. You know that in Kazakhstan there are different ownership statuses of the universities, starting from public, autonomous, private universities, and I'm studying performance management and measurement system in each of these universities, and I'm studying how do academics feel themselves with different types of performance measurement and management systems. So I will be interviewing both management staff and academic staff, and so when I'm using thematic analysis and document analysis to do my data analysis. So the outcome of my work is going to be a framework that will, as a recommendation for the higher education institutions on how to run the performance management and measurement system, so so it can achieve both the high performance of the university, of the academics and the universities, and ensure that the academics feeling well themselves while working at this organization. So this is briefly about the purpose of my study. And now I have finished my data analysis, data collection, and I'm doing my data analysis. And there are lots of things that came up from data analysis. And this is very much related to the background of Kazakhstan, because it's a post-Soviet country. And as we're trying to become engaged in world education area, the structure, the management of the universities, the measurement system of the universities is changing so much from the previous style. It's very easy. It's much easier for private universities, but for public universities with Soviet background, where research was separated from the universities, it was done by academies of research, and the universities, public universities, they were mostly focused on just teaching rather than doing research. And it's a very difficult transition for academic workers in these universities to accept, to become agile, to start to learn new methods of research that we are now studying at foreign universities. We have a chance to study about the methodology, about the research from the foreign universities. But for Kazakhstani universities who have graduated from the Soviet universities is a very difficult process, and it's very difficult for them to learn. And but they work and they have the requirements to publish, for example, and therefore lots of consequences come out from this phenomenon. So this is it about my research. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. It was a bit brief, but if you have any more specific questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this talk. We are moving on to the panel discussion, and I would like to invite everyone, participants and guests, to share opinion on these amazing talks by our speakers. And please don't be shy, just unmute yourself to start the conversation. Or if, I'm not sure how it works with Microsoft, if participants want to ask question, either unmute yourself or raise hand, and we will address your question. If anyone have any questions, please just unmute yourself or write in the chat. Any thoughts or opinion? And if we don't have any questions, I'm just gonna proceed with some questions in the chat or some opinions in the chat. So
Sure. I have a question.
Okay.
So can I ask, first of all, Aigerim, thank you for your presentation. Can you stop sharing so we will be able to see each other? I have a question for Didar. So Didar, your presentation is very driven by your personal experience. You worked several years in higher educational system. So after coming here, so you bring your idea to take this topic of doing related to gifted students. Is there any changes have been done by your supervisor here? Like what they, you have your own idea of doing this, take this study from Kazakhstan and bring to your university and work with supervisor, but does supervisor implement some changes, and what kind of changes does they implement? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question, Rakhymzhan. So in my experience, what happened is that I came to the application to the PhD study with my initial very raw PhD proposal. And mainly this proposal was, in a few words, if I describe it, it was like identifying special peculiarities of gifted schools, again, coming to the BIL and NIS schools, and identifying the patterns, or let's say the common features of these schools, and then finding the ways of implementing these special features in mainstream schools. That was my initial idea of the proposal. But then coming here, my supervisor started to question my position in terms of whether I need to read more, do some more research. And while doing the literature review, my focus shifted to my personal experience and the research interest combined together. So from that, I came up with an idea to do the research of academically gifted students as identified in gifted schools, and who already started their higher education, because the gifted education research is mostly done in school and the preschool education, but there is a real scarcity of research which is related to academically gifted education in higher education context. So that was another huge argument for me to do this shift. And together with my supervisors, we decided to go in this direction.
Thanks, Didar.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience or from the speakers?
There are some questions in the chat box.
That's right. Let's address the recent one from Gaziza. Gaziza is wondering it's a question for Aigerim. She's wondering, what are the difficulties for public university staff to do research? If it's the right conclusion that we got from your research, your presentation.
Yeah, it's really early to make this kind of conclusion for myself. But during the interviews, I made some kind of like notes for myself. So I relate this to two things. Like there are two reasons of that from my own opinion right now. But I of course there is no evidence of that anywhere. So first of all, I think that in public universities, the average age of the academic workers is quite older than in private universities, and they're old school people. And for them to switch to the requirements of the modern publications, modern journals, it's quite hard. First of all, they don't know English that well. Secondly, they are not that keen to learn about that. They want to publish like in Russian journals, in Kazakhstani local journals, but for them, getting published in foreign journals, it's a very, very big job. It's like doing a PhD for them to learn. Although there are some academic workers, like old schools, that learned that, but most of them that I have interviewed, they they're trying to find other ways to overcome this problem, like not going through it but going around it, like. And second reason, I think the recruitment. Everything is very interrelated in the university and management system, and public universities, they use their resources, like financial resources and all like prestige marketing, if you want, everything to recruit the best ones in their fields. Like they are hunting PhDs who are expert in their fields to work for themselves, and they can afford and offer quite competitive salaries for them and make their positions like very attractive for them. They even try to attract people from industry, for example, to work for them, which is like really, really not affordable for public universities, where they can't afford for themselves to pay that much money, that to provide that. It's not about also salary, it's about like social environment, corporate culture, which is paid much more attention in private universities than in public universities, because they have they can afford themselves to do that. But in public universities, the salary is fixed. They can't kind of make flexible contracts for the teachers, and therefore they recruit the people who are interested, but who can be interested in the work in public universities for that low salary, for example. And this is the second problem. And the person, that person will be not that qualified than the person in which is hired in public universities. And this is like input. The input is suffering. Therefore, the output will be suffering, like in accordance. So I relate. I think that these are the reasons. Maybe there are also other reasons of that I haven't discovered yet, but so far, like, these are my conclusions. Thank you for the question, actually. This is a really interesting question.
Thank you so much, Aigerim, for sharing. We have a question from Dinara to Didar, I think. Do you plan to look at the phenomenon of twice exceptionality? And if yes, then she thinks it will open up the topic more in the framework of gifted education as a way of inclusive education. So this is question to Didar. Oh, it's you're muted. I'm sorry.
Firstly, in my literature review, I did not have this keyword as a twice. How was that? Twice.
Exceptionality.
Twice exceptionality.
Yeah, it was my question actually.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Please.
Yeah, actually, why I ask about twice exceptionality, because I also did some research about giftedness maybe some time ago, and gifted kids usually they are already like exceptionals from the mainstream schooling. I mean, maybe it's also in university as well, because they are not like, I mean, the programs are not made exactly for them, right? They are made for, I mean, average student, not for gifted. So they are already exceptionals. And twice exceptionals, because you mentioned something like special needs education, right, at university. And if the student, I mean, the gifted student has anything like special needs or maybe some disorders, anything like even ADHD or even dyslexia or any like social background, like if it is very low or something. So they are twice exceptionals. I mean, they are twice, I mean, you can accept them from the education system 2 times or even 3 times. And that's why in this case, there could be the situation when giftedness can be hidden under the first exceptionality. For example, you can see the child in a wheelchair and you never think about giftedness because you think about only how to accommodate the wheelchair, for example, I mean, this wheelchair situation of a child or any other. I mean, it's I'm talking about children. Yeah, you're talking about graduate students, but still there, it could be the case, I mean, through the whole life. That's why I'm asking you, I was asking about twice exceptionals, because it's actually happening all around the world in any age. I mean, it's not restricted by age. If the person is gifted, the person might be twice exceptional.
Yeah, I can't deny that, but I've never thought about this from my research perspective. But as I mentioned before, the term of giftedness, it is why, like, everybody can have their own definition of it. And mine, for example, could not be similar to yours or the other third person, for example. And again, I only that was the thing when I was talking about the multidimensional concepts of giftedness, because every researcher or every theory presents the giftedness in a different way, just slightly different than others. For example, the one researcher presents it as being a member of 1% of top people in a specific field. So if you are in top 2%, you are not gifted. That is according to the researcher, which specifies that or states that. And again, coming to the Renzuli's, for example, theory, he suggests that if you are in top 10%, that should be fine. You are considered gifted. And also, for example, there is also one researcher called Robert Sternberg, who has done a lot of psychological research on psychology and giftedness. And he has very, let's say, different views on giftedness. For example, he offers his suggestion saying that nowadays giftedness has all become self-related, like gifted person is somebody who is doing very well at school, going to prestigious university, getting a high degree, then working for his own prosperity, like earning money to himself. That is a general view that is seen about giftedness. And to that point, he is giving his own view, saying that he does not recognize those people as gifted, but rather if the person who is contributing to the overall development or contributing in a positive way to his community or to his environment, that person could be called gifted. So from that perspective, of course, I think it should also be considerate for twice exceptionality in terms of inclusive education, as you mentioned. But again, the gifted person itself, himself, herself, is already is a part of inclusive education, and that should also be highlighted, because most of the time the gifted students they are overlooked because of their giftedness. Like people tend to say, like, he should be fine, he is doing great in the school subjects or test exams and etc. So he does not he does not need any extra support from us. But rather, we need to focus more on those exceptional students that you mentioned, for example, who require special assistance in terms of, I would say, wheelchaired people, because wheelchaired people, it has nothing to do with their cognitive abilities, because they can also be gifted. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But again, to your question, I have not considered that in my research topic.
Thank you for your answer. But I just want to like suggest you, if you have a look at this scene, it's really, and Stenberg as well. He talks about twice exceptionality in some of his research.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Didar, can I ask a question, Didar, please? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Hello. Okay. At the start of your presentation about BIL, and NIS schools, why do you think they are gifted schools?
I personally, I thought they are gifted when I did not when I was still in Kazakhstan, because they were identified as gifted. But after coming here, doing my research, I started to question those things, because the procedures that they are following, they don't have any justification. They don't have any scientific background, because what they do is they go with some testing system. To be honest, the NIS school testing system was borrowed from BIL system, and BIL system initially was Kazakh Turkish Lyceums, and the initial establishing personas who came from Turkey, they, I don't know, at that point maybe it was practiced in Turkey, they just brought it to Kazakhstan. They started to think about, well, we should make some selection process. How should we do that? Of course, at that time there was no Google, there was no like putting it into AI or something, but they sort of found a sampling technique for sort of selection process, and then they just started to implementing it every year. And since then, I think it was just fixed in our perception side. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how it should be. But again, doing the research, I started to realize that there are some other ways of identifying gifted people. And I also read from the chat that there could be many people who were not identified as gifted, and I totally agree with that. What could help to identify them? Many other techniques, for example, again, coming back to the Sternberg, he has special technique for identifying gifted people. Like we should not be, he's proposing not to limit people in a sterilized environment, like putting them into a room and then give them some tests and then identify them gifted. Rather than that, he suggests that let's give him a real life problem. For example, we around the world right now, we have a scarcity of fresh water. How can we solve this problem? Okay, give it to the people, I don't know, from 10 to 15 year students, and let them try to create their own solutions for these problems. And this could be one of the ways of identifying creative, exceptional minded people, and also highlighting that, labeling them gifted students as well. So basically, this is what I can say to your question. I don't know.
Just an idea came to my mind. Didn't you think about the results of unified national test and Altenbelge holders, for example, considering them as gifted? I think it would make your jobs very much easier if you just chose those students and look at how they are doing at the university.
Yeah, that could be a potential good research question and research project by itself. But again, maybe if this panel session was like 1 year ago, I would probably consider that. And also, I just want to mention that, of course, I had a choice of doing the research in a way that identifying gifted students according to special pattern, or going by default, as Yerkesh mentioned in the chat, like saying, do we consider those students studying in BIL and NIS gifted by default? That was my decision, because that was the let's say easiest way to reach out to the participants in the time limit that I have for my project. Because otherwise, if I included FISMAT, I am not saying that FISMAT or Darren graduates are not worthy to be labeled gifted. They can be, and I strongly believe that they are. It's just my decision about this project going with the BIL and NIS graduates. So no personal offense to anybody. If I'm not mistaken, I was just gonna mention that. Aigerim, you, as I remembered, you were graduate of Darren from Kintao. So there are many bright students from all over the country from different backgrounds.
My point was vice versa. So I am sure that BIL and NIS are not for gifted students.
Oh,
So
why are you so sure?
As other schools. Well, because I studied there.
Okay, that's a good argument.
I
Yeah,
know people,
I also
and
studied there. Rakhymzhan also studied there.
then again, it shows how different are the realities.
Let's say, let me paraphrase this, Yerkesh. So, in your experience, you studied in BIL school, also known as KTL, let's say, and
actually, I studied there when it was called For Gifted, and my friend in the village, when I was coming from the city to the village in our summer days, he would say, "Whoa, darnda."
So to that point, what I can say is that again, going back to NIS, not to Bill right now. The NIS schools, if I'm not mistaken, they have the acceptance rate of like from 2 to 5% from all applicants. Please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. And again, those students are usually, as we say, отличники in their own previous schools. I don't know the case where a student who was not successful or did not have a high academic attainment at their former school came to NIS school and then suddenly became bright or very smart, let's say. So again, my point is, when I was doing informal talks or chats or interviews, as you can say, with the teachers who worked in the NIS system, they continuously said that the students who they are teaching are gifted, because the curriculum itself was much harder compared to other schools. The tasks, the home tasks that were given, the workload that were given to students was way much higher than that could be expected from other schools. And to that extent, when they are trying to show their results, and it will develop them anyway at some point. Of course, they might have some well-being issues like the stress and etc. Because as you know, in those systems, if you sort of get a not so good mark in terms of 3 or even less, you will be expelled from school. And recently, of course, they opened some quotas for paid tuition students. Like if somebody wants to study there without being without going from the selection process, you could just go and pay for the tuition. It's like around 3.5 million per year. If your parents can afford that, you can study there. But again, there is a condition, like your academic attainment should be high. Like you can't have this comfort of I'm paying for my studies, so I have this chance of not studying. So again, if the school is having the standard up high, I think we can call this school, at least if not for gifted, but at least they are giving very good results compared to other schools.
Sorry to interrupt this interesting discussion. I think it's time for us to close this discussion panel and close this meeting. And if our speakers have any last words to say, please do so. Otherwise, I encourage everyone to join our Telegram group and keep discussion there. Any last words from our speakers?
From my side, I would like to thank the Kazakh European Science Association for this opportunity. I had a very good privilege listening to other colleagues' research, and I think it was really great event. And thank you for everyone.
Yes, I also want to thank your association for inviting me. And also it was interesting to learn about my PGR fellows research, about what they are doing. And as well, thank you very much for giving the opportunity to share our own research, because, you know, for PhD students, it is very important to share. Once you share, you start understanding what you are doing actually during the sharing itself. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Didar, for inviting, and the organization for organizing this kind of event. Really, I even found a girl from my Kentau Darren here. Yeah, it was really interesting to listen to other PGRs, what they're thinking, what the perspective is to the research, and personality. I think PGR is so much about what kind of person you are and how you are doing your research. It was really useful. Thank you so much. And all the best to your organization.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, I was so excited. I was preparing the slides. I have redone all my slides and the text as well, so it made me indeed think about how and maybe what bits and parts I need to add or change. Yeah, let's keep in touch, guys. We are like education fellas. If you are in the stage of pre-viva or like in progress of something, yeah, reach out. I'm very keen on asking questions, as you can see from the chat. So yeah, I would be very glad to interrogate you and questioning all those things. And yeah, so yeah, we can organize that if you want.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you, Aya. Thank you. Last word. Thank you, Aya, very much for joining us from US and doing this kind of great moderation session. And also for speakers. Really, it was for me personally just to meet people and make some networking. For people from UK, it's also helpful. And we're trying to do this kind of events at least once a month to meet people from which is doing science, not only in Europe but other countries. So you guys very welcome to join. Maybe in the future we can do separate sessions. For example, Yerkesh speech and every speech of yours very interesting. It will be helpful to discuss more. And yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for taking time, answering questions. And I hope it was very helpful, at least for other folks from audience and for us also.
Yeah. I also want to highlight the high level of organization. Everything was on time. Everything like was beforehand. Yeah, you are guys very responsible. Thank you so much for, yeah.
That was actually a really proper one. Like never seen this before.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aya. Thank you very
that.
much, Aya.
Thank you for the feedback. We hope to see you soon. Bye.
Yeah,
guys.
bye.
Cheers, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.